Là, il est 10h30. Je voulais écouter cette vidéo-là, puis après, call it a night. Fait que, vidéo de hockey psychology. Si vous connaissez pas, ils font des assez bonnes vidéos sur le hockey de base. Puis c'est Are the Montreal Canadiens really good? Fait qu'on va écouter ça.
Last season, the Montreal Canadiens made NHL history by becoming the youngest team ever to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. Although they were eliminated in the first round by the Washington Capitals, it was the first step towards them building something that is truly special. This year, they've actually come back with a slightly younger group, yet all of their core has seemingly taken another step in their development. Not only are some players making franchise history, but others are making NHL history.
Hell yeah.
Montreal is on the very edge of breaking their own record for the youngest team to make the NHL playoffs. And the scary part is, they're only going to get better. So how good is this current iteration of this Montreal team? Are they really Canada's best chance at a Stanley Cup, or are they still way further than people think? Well, let's take a deeper look.
Nice. That's good.
Last year, we saw a glimpse of what this young team is capable of in the first round of the playoffs. From goaltending to defense and offense, this is a team that is built for success far beyond this season. But is it possible that they are a true threat to go deeper this season while having a team that is virtually younger than they were last season? Let's start with Montreal's biggest strength as a whole, and that is their offense. When you have a team as young and talented as this squad, speed becomes your ally. Looking at their NHL Edge stats, the Habs rank in the top 10 in all speed categories ranging from 18 to 22 mile per hour plus speed bursts. While they aren't the heaviest team, they run a 1-2-2 forecheck and do most of their damage by getting on defenders quickly with their speed and then using their skill and support to create havoc off the forecheck. Since day one of Marty St. Louis arriving as head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, he has always been a big believer in coaching players away or off the puck. And you see a lot of that in Montreal's offensive philosophy. Their speed and skill makes them a deadly threat on the transition in more ways than just one. First, and perhaps the most obvious, is giving the D the green light to activate on the breakout, and why wouldn't you when you have someone like Lane Hutson? Here he recognizes that the Jets have two below the goal line as Montreal begins to break out, so he makes the decision to take off and join the play. Again, look at the support Montreal has on every encounter where they face pressure. They have bodies going in that direction to ensure that they can make a quick play, and by the time
d'analyse que genre quand tu regardes une game, tu remarques pas. What the fuck?
Reaches the Winnipeg blue line, Hutson is all alone because of a read he made at his own goal line. The result is a tidy finish from Hutson himself. Now, this is probably a good time to mention that we are seeing something special with Lane Hutson. You don't set the NHL record for most assists by a defenseman within the first 150 games of your career by accident. In all three zones, offense usually starts with Hutson at the wheel. People have always knocked Hudson's defensive game early because of his size. And don't worry for the haters, we will get to how certain elements of his game can hurt Montreal defensively, but given his physical stature, he has to follow the Quinn Hughes style of defending that relies on elite angling, anticipation, and perfect timing on stick work. Breakouts are a big one. His legs alone can beat an F1, where he can then use his skill set to pick apart neutral zone structures. But what I love is how he uses his anticipation and IQ to break up plays along the wall. Very rarely is he going to win the physical battle, but you'll see him use his body weight to bait puck carriers into vulnerable positions, where then he can use a quick stick to create a turnover. Timing is everything for him. It allows him to catch forwards sleeping at the wheel, and it can get him out of sticky situations where his size would usually be a disadvantage. But we all know the area he truly thrives in the most, and that's in the O zone. His mobility alone opens up a flood of opportunities for Montreal to get creative and leverage all five players in their attack. This is part of where we see Montreal's success on offense. When it comes to O zone possession time, it's nothing crazy. They're around middle of the pack, but they're actually below league average for generating shots from high danger, mid-range, and long-range areas. Their saving grace is that they have the best shooting percentage in the league. Now, usually when people see that, it's generally safe to presume that it's unsustainable and that the team is getting a bit lucky. While there is some truth to that, it can also be a testament to a team's ability to make good on the chances that they do get. Going back to how Marty St. Louis wants his team to play without the puck, Montreal is one of the best offensive units at supporting each other away from the puck to create high-quality looks. With Montreal, there isn't really a strict protocol.
Après les dernières games qu'on a witness, j'ai goût de dire que cette analyse est un peu de la merde, mais C'est vrai que il y a littéralement quelques semaines, on jouait comme des astidieux. On était la meilleure équipe de la ligue, bro. Parce qu'on était fort. Mais là, écoute...
to stay within a certain offensive structure. St. Louis gives his players the green light to move freely in the O-zone as long as they give each other support. We also see this on the transition as well, with the Habs top line being a perfect example of this. When Slavkovsky gets this puck on the blue line, the Kings are in good structure here, but here's the first off-puck support coming in with Caulfield. He's going to swing in front and open up to give Slavkovsky the option to extend the play down low. Suzuki, on the other hand, is going to hover in that soft spot between coverages for a dangerous one-time chance. Slick pass, dangerous shot is stopped for the Kings to get headed the other way, but Caulfield is the first guy all over it on the back check, strips the puck, sends it over to Slavkovsky. Suzuki opens up, and she's all over the highlight reel. It's these types of close proximity support plays that help them create east-west plays on the transition as well, too. On this play, Calgary's in decent structure in the neutral zone, and this is a play that happens numerous times throughout the game. So offensive teams will send 2 or 3 players to the opposing team's blue line to back up the defending team and give the puck carrier the option of either A, gaining the red line and dumping it in, or B, making a hard pass that will be tipped in by a forward to start the forecheck. However, Montreal values these controlled entries and making these plays if support is there. So instead of going for the dump in, they try the middle lane pass and then use the support on the wall to buy just a tiny bit of time on the entry. This subtle little support play on the wall allows enough time for Caulfield to hit that space on the weak side. He picks it out of the air like he's Jose Canseco and then rips it for a goal. Of course, this encouragement to hold on to pucks and attack with close support on entries is music to the ears for a player like Lane Hutson. Watch how he uses both of his 2 close support options as initial bait here. Quick little stutter step and head fake makes this defender bite like a fish. He immediately attacks the heels back down the boards, and again, look at the options he has. He's got the safety option down low. He's got Slavkovsky in the middle as the interior option or even the board option if need be, and he's got the Hail Mary option and Demidov on the far side. He takes the high risk, high reward route, goes cross ice. Ivan Demidov says thanks for having me as he 1 times at home, who, speaking of, is in the running to be the rookie of the year. Already, Demidov's playmaking has shown real flashes of brilliance, and it's all built off of his timing, edge work, and deception. His feel for defenders' leverage allows him to identify escape routes, and when there aren't any to work with, he manipulates opponents into creating one for him. It's why he's already in the 95th percentile rank for in-zone shot assists. Basically, in-zone shot assists are passes that lead directly to shot attempts off of in-zone possessions like cycles and forechecks, which are plays like this. This is a loose puck below the goal line, and Demidov knows that he's going to win the race there, but he also knows that he's going to have pressure right on his back. So his first touch is a punch turn directly back down low. That makes Nick Jensen temporarily take up breakdancing while keeping the entire 5-man Ottawa unit collapse into a 5-tight box. Perfect low to high and a goal from Montreal. Truly elite players and playmakers have a knack for making plays when they're outnumbered. Demidov is already doing this. Watch him leverage his edge work and frame here to initially protect the puck. He falls, which invites Tavares as the center in the box +1 to come in for the double team. Instinctually, he knows that that means that there's double coverage on him. So that also means that there's an opening on the inside. Perfect pass right to the slot, and eventually it leads to a goal. Now, another massive reason for their success this year is their power play. Being top 10 in the league, it is all about movement and manipulation based off of a few set plays they like to run. The most simple is the Suzuki to Hudson to Demidov one-timer. If killers give them that option, they will gladly take it. But a lot of the creativity comes from Slavkovsky's movement in the bumper. Montreal still gets their traditional looks with Suzuki and Caulfield working the perimeter to get an open look for Slavkovsky right in the sweet spot. However, the magic is when Slavkovsky moves out of the bumper as Montreal plays the puck down low. Slavkovsky slides out of his spot to the far post, forcing this killer to take the potential down low 2v1. That opens up the seam cross ice for Demidov. Bada bing, bada boom, that's another goal. When Montreal decides to move the puck up high on the left flank, it's Demidov on the right side who attacks the far post while Slavkovsky punches out into the high ice out of the bumper to open up the one-time threat. Killers are forced to cover Demidov, attacking the back door, leaving Slavkovsky wide open to go to the driving range. Combine that with the Suzuki and Caulfield combo on the left flank. Killers hate their lives watching Montreal Montreal's power play step on the ice.
Dang.
But I do think that's enough glazing, because we all know that their young offensive weapons make them one of the most exciting teams to watch. But the question that really matters is, can it convert to the playoffs? The reality is that Montreal still struggles to defend well consistently. In terms of goals allowed, they rank 24th in the NHL, allowing 3.26 goals per game, which is a tiny regression from where they were last season. Now, there's a couple reasons for this, and it does start with the other side of the sword with their transition play. That same offensive philosophy that encourages their defenders to step up in the play can backfire at crucial times. Here in a tied game, a brutal bounce almost ends up being a very costly decision, as Montreal's other defenseman has activated off the rush. Luckily, they're bailed out by Fowler showing off the leather for all the Chiquitas in the crowd. Where the Habs really struggle, though, is defending the neutral zone. Playing a 1-2-2, you need each layer stepping up at each line to close off gaps, but far too often, Montreal struggles with this as a five-man unit. From a number standpoint, Montreal's D-core really struggles at denying entries. Last year, this was an issue, as they were 28th when it came to defending possession entries. This year, in terms of entry denial rate, Noah Dobson is Montreal's best option at gapping up and stopping threats at the blue line, and he only ranks middle of the pack in the 61st percentile around the league. As a whole, Montreal's blue line is susceptible to these soft gaps. So as soon as a team beats the initial layer of Montreal's 1-2-2, they usually have a strong entry with a lot of space to work off of in the O-zone, and it frequently burns Montreal. And because the Habs want to play on their toes, a player like Hudson, who likes to angle off attackers by skating at them to surf them towards the boards, it can backfire if his timing is off and create a huge opportunity for a counterattack if he doesn't have the support around him to cover for that type of read. Next is
you know what? Je me demande si genre le staff du Canadien ou juste de n'importe quelle équipe écoute ce genre de vidéos-là puis ils prennent des notes. Parce que ce qu'ils disent, c'est pas de la merde puis c'est low-key super bien pensé. Fait que ça m'étonnerait même pas s'il y a au moins une personne qui dit yo, you know what? Faudrait changer cette stratégie-là à cause que genre c'est trop prévisible ou quoi que ce soit. Sauf si, I guess, l'équipe le fait déjà. Sans la vidéo.
Zone where Montreal deploys a hybrid system. This is zone coverage down low and a man-on-man up high. Usually the best teams in the league use this system, but it doesn't come without growing pains for this young team. The best way to exploit the system and Montreal right now is to get them moving low to high or vice versa and force them to communicate their switches in their assignments. When opposing teams force Montreal to make these split-second reads, there's a very tiny pocket of time where teams can exploit an opening. These are the types of growing pains that come with being the youngest team trying to execute their system at the highest level. The same goes for Montreal's situation in net as well. There's a lot of hope for Montreal, but again, it's very young. Between Dobish and Fowler being both 24 and 21, it's a lot to ask of these goaltenders that young to bail them out consistently. And yet, some nights, they do. That being said, going into the playoffs with troubles defending, a young goalie tandem, and an offensive system that struggles to generate a ton of shots in the interior of the ice doesn't exactly paint a generous picture for a deep playoff run. But that is exactly why we play the games, because once you make it into the dance, anything can happen.
Fait que basically, ce que j'ai retenu de sa vidéo, right, c'est que le boy, on a une bonne offense pour se rendre loin, mais si on fixe pas notre game défensivement, on va se faire péter la gueule. Puis ça fait du sens, bro, parce que dès qu'on va arriver contre des grosses équipes, on va se faire poter des buts de gauche à droite, ça va être dégueulasse.
There may not be a young group more dynamic than this Montreal team. Their core is still yet to hit their prime, their goaltending is still developing, and their system is still evolving. But that is also what makes them so dangerous, because if this version of the Canadiens, the youngest one yet, is already this good while they're still figuring it out, then the rest of the NHL may not be ready for what comes next.
Holy vide, bro. Yo, W Hockey Psychology. J'écoute leurs vidéos depuis longtemps, puis écoute, ça c'était une assez bonne vidéo de leur part. Shout out. My favorite thing in the world as a Habs fan is listening people from Toronto talk about this team, LOL. Eastern playoff is gonna be nuts. Fact. Les Canadiens have a great potential. Ouais, facts. Écoute, ça mérite un petit thumbs up, bro. Shout out aux dudes.